What have I done?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Hannah. Appreciate it. All right. Everybody, welcome to our first March EDU Coaching Power Hour. I'm your host, Michael McBrain. For those who haven't met me yet, I am a serial ALC student. I've taken 1.0, 2.0, the sport class. I've done mentor coaching as well as the business class they had last year or before last, whenever it was. So I just like taking classes. So, and I'm here to be your host today. Quick, fun housekeeping things. We all know Zoom. If you're not speaking, please mute your phone or your computer so we don't get background noise and so forth. I am the worst offender out of everybody. I type and take notes while we're talking, and I forget to mute sometimes. So if I do, just yell at me or call me names, and I'll stop doing this. The structure is that we'll do a check-in question in a second, introduce everybody, where you're from, and so forth. We'll turn it over to our guest speaker, who will speak for about 15, 20 minutes or so, give or take. And then if time permits, depending on how it goes, we'll have question and answers. And we're all trying to build a community of coaches where we can meet once a week to get better at our business, get better at coaching, just learn new things and meet new people. Because a lot of times you'll meet people who have the same interests in the coaching field as you do. For a perfect example is Heather and I have a similar interest in helping at-risk youth. Hers is a little more defined for children of abuse. So we kind of bonded over that and have met outside of these classes together one-on-one, which is always good to have. So it's always good to have someone in your corner. So that's what we're doing about these power hours. We do have Hannah on here, who is an EDU trainer. So if you are here for a makeup class, it counts because she's here. If she wasn't here, it wouldn't count. And you'd be here for no reason other than have fun with us and Slim Shady Dave. So, yeah. So if you have questions for the speaker, you can pop them in the chat box. I can keep them there for her. Christina, you don't have to sit there and read them. I'll keep them for you and keep them so you don't have to get distracted by that, so you can focus on your thing. Or you can raise your hand or do butterflies to get your whatever you want to do to get attention. So, yeah. All right. So I will start with our check-in question for the day. And I forgot last time, so make sure we do this time. So when we do our check-in question, tell us your name, where you're from in the country or world. And if you're in a class, let me know what class you're in so I can take roll. So if you're in a makeup class, I can get that for you. So yeah. So my name is Michael. I'm from Seattle, Washington. Hey, Allison. What? She's from Seattle as well. So
And Hannah.
It hit.
Yeah, where's my what?
What? Hannah, you're as Hannah right now. You're Hannah's. Yeah. All right, I feel bad now. Yeah. Hit 55 degrees yesterday. I was pretty happy with that. So spring is around the corner. Okay, check-in question. Here we go. Which person from history would you most like to meet and why? So the fun thing about this, I get to think about the questions all day long and have an answer, and you guys have to do it on the spur of the moment. So, and it could be living or deceased in any type of history, so it doesn't really matter, just some important person. And I think I would want to meet Gandhi. I think that I love his story, and I love how he just loves life and people, and I would love to be able to learn as much as I can from him if I ever could. So, all right. And Christina, as we go on this, you have to go last because you're a guest speaker, FYI. So, Hannah, you can go whenever you want if you want. So, anybody else is free game. Don't be shy.
All right, I'll go since I got a what, but
what?
I know. And so I'm Allison. I'm in Seattle, and it is 24 days until opening day for baseball. So just get excited.
Ichiro.
I know he's back. That's and I do need this as preemptive absence that I'm going to have in 2 weeks. So I do need this for a class. So I do need attendance. So I would pick Eleanor Roosevelt. And I like this question because it is asked just enough that I get to think about it every like 3 or 4 conferences or something. And it always changes. Right now I'm really into Eleanor Roosevelt. I really like her work that she did for the UN. And I think I'd like to see like, how can we prevent this stuff? Like, what would you do? Like, what would you tell us? So I think I could learn a lot from her. It'd be great. Thanks.
I'll go. Hello, my name is Teague. I am in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and it was not 55 degrees here today. I just went out and shoveled some snow before I hopped on the line. I am in our 1.0 executive training class, and I do need this as makeup credit, so thanks, Hannah. If I could go back in time and meet one historical person, I've been thinking a lot about this tomorrow since it's International Women's Day, so I've been compiling a list of women I admire, and someone who I would like to meet would be Frida Kahlo. Her art is really cool, and her persona is even more fascinating. I saw her exhibit when it came to Detroit a few years ago, and it was amazing. So she's at the top of my list.
Nice. Welcome. Alexis, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Alexis. I live in Los Angeles. I am in the Wellness 1.0 class, and Brittany is my instructor. And I don't need this for credit. I was on the call last week and had fun and thought, why not jump on again? Because I can learn so much. And this was actually really interesting to me too. And a person I could meet, the first thing that came to mind was Jesus. So I don't know. But yeah, I would want to meet him, I guess. Yeah.
In the real Brittany's your instructor or the fake Brittany?
The real one.
Real one. Okay,
The real
let me cover that. Welcome back, Alexis.
I'll jump in, Michael, and thank you again for hosting all of these. Christina, thank you, for joining tonight. Looking forward to it. I am in Alexandria, Virginia. I'm a 1.0 alum, and like Alexis, I'm just here because I had a blast last week. I learned a lot, so looking forward to it again. If I can meet anybody, Alexis has a wonderful answer there, obviously, but I'll say Abraham Lincoln, just because I think it was such an amazing time in our country's history, and he had such a range of decisions that he had to make and the things that he had to overcome. So I think that'd be a pretty amazing conversation.
Welcome back, Jeff.
Thanks, Michael.
I can go. I'm Christina. I'm from just outside of Boston. We're in the middle of a huge storm, which is why I look like this. It's just outside the storm. And I did, so my coach training came through CTI, and then I did the ALC program with John. So this is really hard for me because I feel like don't ask me to choose. Because the first, Jimmy Carter came to mind, but I think Shirley Chisholm for me, I think she did stuff that I feel like she must have been an idealist and sort of didn't know what she couldn't do. And I love that sort of way of approaching life, just doing what you don't know you can't do and stepping into it. So if I had to say someone, which you're going to make me choose, I would say Shirley Chisholm. Yeah.
And I say, Michael, this is too hard of a question.
I'm sorry, you want easy questions?
That doesn't exist, right? Yeah, it's hard to choose, but I'm Hannah. I do know that. Seattle, Washington area. I know I didn't get a what, but
what?
Okay, I got Allison's hands up, so cool. And it's cool to see some people from my classes. You guys are awesome. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, I can't choose, but I love the Jane Austen time period, and I think it'd be wonderful to meet her. Like, what was life really like? Like, tell me the stories of the people that inspired your characters. I think that would be really interesting. So I'll just go with that, although there's a lot of people I'd like to meet or talk to and learn from. but I'll just go with that.
Nice. Well, again, thanks for being here for those who make up classes. So, all right, Christina, before we get to you, we got everybody right except for Dave and Hannah, or David and Heather. Okay. All right. So I didn't have planned for Dave, so I got to do this on the fly. So I did plan a little bit for Heather, so this is gonna be fun. So Dave is from Whalebone Alley, Siberia. He's really not, but he is. I think he's in current class. Can't remember which one though. He's got some loud kids, so if he comes off mute, you'll hear his kids. They're young and loud. And the person he would like to meet in history would be Adolf Hitler's nanny, just to ask some serious questions to figure what's going on and stuff. So there's that. All right. And for my best friend, Heather. Heather is from the Bermuda Triangle, and she is an alumni. She was in my sport class with me. And the reason why she's not on a video is because she's in the Bermuda Triangle, so you can't really see the video sometimes. So it just happens that way. And the person she would like to meet, of course, would be Jacques Cousteau, because she is in the Bermuda Triangle, and that guy might be able to help her. So, yeah. So, all right, Christina, go ahead with your answer.
All right. I really would love to meet Mother Teresa. I just don't know, like, how does someone live like that and have a constant flow of that kind of, like, true, authentic love? It just blows my mind. So I would really love to just sit down and ask her all the questions.
Nice. All right. We got through everybody, I think. Cool. All right. So I'm going to go through a quick bio on Christina before we turn it over to her. And, we'll go from there. So the fun thing is I make our guest speakers give us bios. And it's always fun some of them get really freaked out about it. But Christina doesn't. She just has this bam answer like 2 minutes later. So you can tell she pulled it somewhere. So, which is hilarious. So I'm going to read this word for word. And Christina, if you don't know me very well, or you can figure it out already, that I will add things to us as we go. And we'll go from there. Is it pronounced Dizon?
Dijon, like Dijon, but with a Z.
Okay.
Dijon. Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Here we go. All right, so Christina Dizon is a driven coach, an entrepreneur, a project manager, business owner, designer, and professional photographer. She brings the sharp mind and creativity behind these diverse skill sets to the table in all she does, and that helps her excel. She has 18 years of experience as a speaker, writer, and movement leader. Her 12 years as an instructor and content developer prepared her to move into coaching. Hundreds of clients affirm her skills. An undergraduate degree in communications laid the foundation for Christina's career in human studies and interactions, with several coaching certificates, including her credentials as a PCC with the ICF. Christina continues to pursue studies in neuroscience. She currently lives in Denver, which I don't like that. No, you missed the football stuff we had a few weeks ago, whatever. But I'm an Oakland Raider fan, so yeah, okay. She lives in Denver, which we don't hold that against her because Denver's a beautiful city. And she lives with her her husband of 5 years named Phil. So I read that wrong. So, and she's going to talk about workshops, and I'm going to put on mute and let her go.
I can't imagine having 5 husbands. Let's just put it out there. Thank you guys for being here. I'm actually so excited to be here. When Michael sent me the list, I was going through and I was like, I could talk about this. Workshops. Oh my gosh, I was talking about workshops. So you get the benefit of this passion of mine. Workshops really are something that I could do workshops all day, every day. I love them so much, and for several reasons, which I will go into. But I am an ALC 1, 2, and wellness alum and I love that program. So I'm all here for you all, and I'm so excited that we can just build on this topic more. So, as just really, really simple, brief background, I went through the courses 2 years ago, and I was trying to make that ICF deadline where they changed a bunch of requirements so I could still get my PCC. And it happened to be that I was sick with Lyme disease then, and it was, coaching was just, and the process of learning more about it was so transformational to that season of my life. And because of that, I made some really hard decisions with my treatment plans and what I was willing to do. And so I'm actually here with you because of that. Back in May, I went through a treatment. My husband and I saved like mad people, and I went through a treatment that was similar to dialysis, got a PICC line, went every day for IV treatments, and I was cleared at the beginning of June. So thank God, praise God. It was amazing. So moving out of that season into, I want to start my business again, I research what are ways that I can begin this process. And over and over, time and time again, I heard from other coaches. I got my start with workshops, and I would book 2 months out with 1 or 2 workshops a week, and then I had my whole client list. And so it was at first it was a little bit intimidating to get those scheduled and started. I ended up starting by just launching a workshop of my own, invited all my friends. I had about 18 people come. So it was quite a large workshop, but it was so exciting because for the first time, people in my circles were finally able to see what I do, and just a little piece of what coaching can, how coaching can affect your life. And so from there, I booked more workshops. I got 2 clients, and it was really funny because I don't know if any of you have ever felt this experience where you're faced with this decision, and you know that if you go there, it could be crazy intimidating. And in your mind's eye, you just decide, like, I'm just not even going to consider it as being intimidating. I will just dive in. And that's kind of what I did. I decided I would just dive in and to a degree, make it up as I went along. And, I've obviously, as Michael said with my bio, I have done a lot of speaking and group session work with a few other jobs that I had. So I was very familiar with group dynamics, but it was still very much a process of, how do I do this? So my very first workshop was the end of September of last year. And since then, I think we've had, probably like 24 workshops, and that's just something that I consistently do. Every week I have a workshop. Every week I have at least 1 workshop. Some weeks I have 2 or even 3. Not all of those are in person. Some of them are in person or online. But why I'm passionate about workshops is because I think I don't know if any of you have heard of the book called Presence, but it's the science of why we have this staying power with presence and being present with people, which is really what our coaching is all about. Being in the moment with people, but there's an actual science behind it. And I love workshops because it allows us to step into that space with people who would otherwise be strangers, and we can show them, here is how what I do can affect you, and you call for things out of them. I believe it's probably one of the most effective ways to get clients, because I can be fully present. I can be completely myself in front of this group of people. They can connect with me. They can see me. They can hear my voice. They can know my passion and my care really for them. And so I've in general seen a rule that for every workshop I get 1 client and at least one other workshop booking from there. So obviously it has staying power and a power to continue, which is really great because I'm able to reach people I wouldn't have elsewise known. So a few reasons why I love workshops. It really the first reason that it expands your reach. You can reach so many people. And size-wise for workshops, I generally like to keep to about the six people, which may sound small, but I think that within coaching, connection is what we're after. And so if you can keep the group somewhat small, intimate, then there's so much dynamic that comes from that. People feel like they can be vulnerable. They don't feel like, the time isn't rushed. You're not trying to get through all the people and say, okay, 30-second timer. And so people, in general, I've seen people really step into that space when it's that 5 or 6 number. So it expands your reach. Secondly, it shows potential clients what you do. As I mentioned before, the third reason is it builds education on coaching. Sometimes, I don't know, what was that commercial? It was an insurance company, and it was a spoof on what a life coach is. And it drove me absolutely crazy. But there is a little bit of a stigma with what is a life coach, what's a wellness coach, what's a business coach, and workshops allow you to break through what that stigma is and show them this is what the process looks like. This is a partnership between you and I, and it's actually something that involves a lot of work and is really serious, but will change your life. So I really believe even if people don't directly book me and hire me from a workshop, they will, if they've had a good experience, always keep me in mind for someone who later on down the road they may meet who does need someone, or even themselves if they need someone. The fourth reason is it establishes you as an expert. So you are forced to step into space, into a space, to be assertive, to share, this is what I have to offer you. And it's an amazing tool that people can see you in that space and then respond. So you build trust with them, you build rapport with them, and it really does establish you as someone, as an expert in your field. And then the final reason, which obviously is part of why we do workshops, is it does get you clients. So someone, I reiterate throughout my workshops, we're just going through tools. This is just scratching the surface of what you can achieve with coaching. And it's, without fail, people want to be coached after going through a workshop, or they want to host one because they just want the next level of it. And so I think the rapport that comes from workshops, especially when you can have it be about 5 or 6 people, is really dynamic. And I think it also reinforces that individual connection, that you can change the trajectory of someone's life with this profession, and you show them in that small of a setting how much they matter. So those are all the reasons why I think workshops should be something that every coach does. But ultimately, when we're looking at designing workshops, the biggest question I think to be asked is, what is your desired outcome for the workshop? So outside from getting clients, what do you want them to walk away with? What do you want them to walk away thinking, feeling? And that is what you design everything else around. So for example, I do workshops. My most effective workshops, I have about 7 or 8 now that we've designed, but the most effective ones come from either stress management as a wellness coach, or business coaching. So entrepreneurs, solopreneurs who want to build their businesses. Those are generally the two, because people don't know how to reduce their own stress. They have no clue how to manage stress. Even if they check all the check marks of Googling stress management, it's not that effective. And we obviously know why as coaches. And then business coaching, because there's just so much there and they know that they have to make investments in their business. So those generally are the 2 categories that I've seen the most clients come from and the most interest. But when I design my workshops, I look at, what do I want them to feel when they walk away from it? What do I want them to remember most of all? So with stress management, if I can create a space in which they can step away from what was holding them back with stress and into that space of peace and calm and centeredness, then I've basically sold my services because I'm showing them here in this space without even individual one-on-one, I'm able to help you get to that emotional state that you want to be. With business coaching, it might be the confidence to step into the skills and strengths that they have as business owners, or to step away from the things that, they aren't doing well. So when I started designing workshops with that specific mindset, everything changed. And I saw, even in the workshops, such a huge difference with people in the way that they were interacting and engaging. And so, the outcome that I want people to have when we're done with a workshop ultimately is seeing the need and having the desire for change and growth. So whether that is stress management, growing in their ability to handle stress, function with stress, or growing in their business, which obviously they want to grow in their business as business owners. And everything that I do, exercises, questions, engagement, is centered around that. I would say workshops are very similar to a group coaching dynamic. I think most of our workshops last about 90 minutes. And we probably speak only about 20, maybe 25 minutes max of that. It is extremely based on engagement. So we'll give our little intros, we'll create the space for why we're here, why this topic matters, and then get right into asking questions and having people really be vulnerable. And I state right at the beginning of my workshops, this is not a talk, this is not a presentation. We are going to be in it together for the next hour and a half, and you have the opportunity to open up in a space that is completely safe, that is exploring together, and we're creating a partnership together for this outcome, whether it's finding a way to stress less or building our business. So everyone can expect, the expectation's already there, that they will step up, they will speak up, they will be processing, and that's okay. You don't have to be intimidated with that. And so that also helps with, at this point, I've never had anyone say, I'm not comfortable answering that, which I think is really remarkable. And I really do my best to create the space and that environment for people right off the bat, so that they can get the most out of it. And I say that when what you are able to process, what you're able to open up and engage with, is also what you're going to get out of this time. So I know feel like I'm talking so fast, but there's so much that I could get through with you guys tonight. So that's important, because when you look at what are the topics that you could have for your workshops, ultimately that desired outcome is what's driving the topic. So again, my niche group of people are the solopreneurs, the entrepreneurs, in some ways, I love working with high achievers and people who want to be more productive and level up. And so stress management, obviously, in business, those are the ones that I cater to. But if you're looking at wellness and wanting to have more wellness clients, you can have eating well workshops, or nutrition counseling based workshops, or, just general wellness. And keeping the desired outcome is really what drives the topic. What will they be most interested in? So a few questions for you. Obviously, what is the audience you serve? Who do you want to reach and connect to? And then what are their greatest needs that a workshop could fill, or at least give them a tool that they can then utilize in their life that will serve that need. What will move them? Because ultimately, coaching is about that forward momentum and being a propellant. Oftentimes, we'll start workshops with specifically the phrase, our goal is for you to walk away feeling energized, confident, certain and propelled in your business endeavors, or our goal is for you to walk away feeling like you can achieve calm and balance and peace in your everyday life. So we set that as the stage, and find that when we go after the emotion, that will move them along in the process. And when they can experience that movement, that coaching space dynamic, it helps them not only to discover insights during the session, but it does make an impact on them to see that coaching does work. And here's just a little taste of what it is like. What will engage them? That's, I think, the last question, because this is something that I've done a lot of research as to what kind of topics my audience would like, and I'm discovering that I actually don't know as much about my audience as I think I do. So, for example, I love doing my time is split between wellness and business, and with wellness clients, they actually really, really love topics that center around nutrition and food. And it makes sense, but I have not built a workshop around this. So just at the end of this month, I'm launching my first workshop that we're calling it some form of eat well or eating clean. But I cannot even tell you, I asked like 6 people, I'm throwing this idea out here, I'm not sure. And like, there was this, yes, not only will I come, I will bring someone. We need this. And there was so much like adamance for it. I was like, whoa, that is okay. That is something I seriously overlooked somehow. So what will engage them? The more engaged they can be, the more I think that they will want to partner with you, the more they feel like that trust is there and established, so that you become the person that they want to go to, that they want to build that growth and connection with. So the exercises that we do are built directly from those desired outcomes. What are the things that will engage them? What are the answers to those previous questions? And from a more sales perspective, it's really interesting. You can give people an amazing amount of value and still sell yourself and your product and your service. And the way that I've found this to be really effective is by developing exercises that allow people to pre-qualify themselves. And what that means is they go through a process of asking questions where they can see that where I am is not where I want to be, and where I want to be actually matters to me. So how do I get from there to here? And what am I willing to do to build that momentum and to have that growth? And so it's I think almost every workshop that we have, we just start generally with the life wheel as an input. So with stress, we have a stress wheel. And then we look at the life wheel and say, what are the areas in which you feel the most stressed? So they go through and they'll rate that. And then they'll rate which is the area that you feel like, they'll circle which is the area you feel like will make the most significant impact on the other areas. So basically you put a little bit of effort and get a lot of return back because that area touches several other areas. And then we look at, all right, what do you want to do with this information? What's a step that you can take this week that either changes an action or a mindset that you believe you need to shift in order to reduce that stress? For business, I have a business exercise where they go through and they rate the different areas of business, whether it's finance or marketing or sales or operations. And they literally, what's their level of satisfaction? They'll rate again, what's your level of stress from these areas? And seeing how sometimes the levels of high stress directly correlate with their satisfaction, or vice versa. It can be that this area gives them stress, but they also are super satisfied with it because they know they have to work really hard to get there. And so in the group dynamic, though, it's so interesting because people see that, interesting, my journey is different than that person's journey, because my numbers are very different than their numbers. And it reinforces that not only that coaching works, but that it's a very individualized process, that they can't just read a book and come to the same conclusions that the author did, that it's very tailored. The process is very tailored to them. Another very, very simple tool that we often go through in many of the workshops is values. And values is, obviously, you can spend a number of sessions on values in an individual capacity. But we kind of say, we're going to take this as a brainstorm. If values are the unseen rules that of the things that are most important to you in life, then what does it look like for you what are some of the values that you might have? And so we establish it as let's just get the thoughts going. Let's just see what comes out. And we have people throw out what kind of values they may or may not have. And then in the worksheet, they have the opportunity to write down, these are possible values. And then we follow up with that in saying, here are some additional exercises that you can do to build out your values. But we say this is just scratching the surface. There really is, we can spend so much time on values. And it's so important that we would encourage you to not even try to get to the very core of your values in this short amount of time, because it's such a big deal to us. And so much of life can be resolved with a simple alignment of values. So those are some examples of exercises that we do. For stress, I have a worksheet that literally helps them paint a picture of what could their life look like if they were not stressed the way that they are. And we break down those questions, and I tell them, this is going to be hard and challenging because we're taking an honest look at your life, and that's really hard to answer these honestly. But once you answer them honestly, you can then decide, what do I want to do with this information? And so it really gives the power back to those attendees. And then we say, all right, so this is what is. Now, what would happen if we actually were able to attain the level of stress management that we want to? What would open up? And those are some of the pre-qualifying questions that we'll utilize, because they begin to see, what would my life be like? I've literally had people say, I think it's pie in the sky to not be affected severely by stress. Like, that's not possible. And she became a client because I challenged her on that. And I said, we had a more extended conversation about it. And so these are some of the ways that I love workshops, because you're establishing rapport, you're building a relationship with someone from ground zero, and then being present with them in the moment so that they can experience just a little taste of what the coaching growth and dynamic can do to them. In the end of workshops, we always have an ask. So whether it's a 24-hour special that they can take advantage of for individual coaching or group coaching. And I actually learned a strategy from one of my friends who does MLMs. And she said, at the end of her presentation, she said, I'm going to ask you if you want to do this, because if I didn't ask you, I would be making the decision for you that you weren't interested. So I kind of make that my little caveat now, like, I'm presenting you with this because it's not my responsibility. It's your responsibility to say yes or no. Do you want this or not? And so the power is in your hands to decide what you want to do with this, and if you want to engage, in coaching further. We then have follow-up. After every workshop, we send an email, we shoot a text, we make a follow-up call, and put those individuals on our list for future promotions, offerings, that sort of thing. In general, I have found, this is my last point, that within a week, it's really important to get them in the space of that experience to make a decision on coaching, because the further out it goes, the less inclined, like, there's just not the intensity and they're not aware of the need anymore. And so if you can create a way to follow up with them, to target them in that week, that's really when you're going to see the most return. So that was so much. I could go for so long on this topic that I know we want to get to your questions too. So I hope that was a little helpful.
That was great, Christina. I have a couple questions, but Jeff, you want to ask your question or you want me to read it for you?
Yeah, I'll ask it, Michael. Christine, I was just interested if you tend to coach all of your participants throughout the entirety of the session, or if you sometimes pair them off, and kind of give them a sense for what it's like, to coach each other. For example, obviously, some of the ALC canned workshops that they have, you recommend doing that to kind of give them a sense for what it's like to be the coachee, and the coach, or the client and the coach, by sort of spoon feeding them questions to ask. I'm just wondering what you do.
That's a really good question. I actually don't do that. So I will choose which worksheets I want everyone to answer or which questions, and we'll just go round robin answering the questions. I kind of think that also gives them more of the reality check of like having more accountability than just one person. So it could work to pair them off too, especially if they already have a relationship. I haven't done that.
Thank you. So you group coach, in other words. So, it sounds really intriguing. So I've never done it. I'm about to do a workshop here over the weekend, so this is very timely. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing. So
awesome.
Anybody else have questions? So I have a bunch of questions, but I'll let anyone else ask because. Go ahead, Alexis, please.
Yeah, just kind of a random, really open-ended question that might sound super basic, but like how do you get like the word out about like you're having a workshop? Is it like Facebook or
all the things?
All the things.
All the things. So generally, so the first ones that I hosted myself, I invited all my friends. I said, feel free to bring a friend. There's no cost. Like I'm going to have beverages there. It's just my way of giving back. And then I put an event on Facebook. I, in general, find that the individual reaching one-on-one is vastly more effective than any Facebook invites you could do. But then on the flip side of it, I have people host workshops for me so that they are responsible for inviting the people and the 4 or 5, and it's like that LinkedIn said that second degree connections are actually more powerful than even first. So I try to tap into that and have people host them for me. It's only when I'm launching a workshop that I know has a lot of interest that I will host it myself and then just all the invites. But in general, I've found you have to invite probably 12 people to get 4 there.
To get 4. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
T, you want to ask your question?
Sure. Thank you for all of this information. It's been so helpful.
Good.
I'm wondering where you host your workshops.
So I've been really blessed. I have friends who own a coffee shop, so sometimes they'll let me host there after hours, and they'll just sit in. So that's awesome. There are other coffee shops I've been able to reserve the rooms for, and we make sure that there's $30 in beverages or whatever. But that's also why I have people host, because then most of the time they host it at their home. So sometimes people will have dinner, like a full dinner, and then have their fellow attendees there. Other times they'll have a brunch. Other times it's like wine and dessert. So there's definitely that like, you're going to get something really nice too, regardless if you get out of the workshop, that you'll enjoy. But it's been in people's homes. I know other people who have them at like library rooms and that sort of thing. But I really like the home dynamic because again, we're utilizing the second degree connections and it's just more intimate.
Can I ask a follow-up question? When you're hosting at a friend's home or someone else's home, what is in it for the host?
Yeah, so oftentimes what I will say is I will give a free session for hosting a workshop. And if they are really influential people, like I know they are a connector, and they might even have 2 workshops come out of it. Sometimes I'll do 2 free sessions, or like that's a month of free coaching basically. But because I do 30-minute goal setting sessions as a part of my offerings, I kind of make that they have a goal setting session and then an actual session as well.
Thank you.
So I have a question from Dave. First off, you said you had him at wine and desserts.
Yes.
He wants to know do you have people pre-register for your workshops? Why or why not? And if so, what platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. So far, I have not needed to because, again, I keep them pretty small and intimate. I deliberately don't want it to be a talk environment or a presentation environment. That said, I have seen larger workshops where through Facebook or Eventbrite, they have people pre-register, and obviously pre-registering is for free, but they'll pre-register just to get an idea of how many are actually there. When I have other people host, they generally keep track of who's said they'll come and not come. So there's a lot that I don't have to worry about with having other people host.
Cool. So I have a question. How would you suggest or for ALC type coaches? Some of us are coaching the younger crowd where our clients are the kids, but our clients are the parents because they're the one paying for it. So would your workshops include both parents and kids?
Yeah. So one of my business partners does that very thing. She found that putting the parents and the kids in a room together was basically disastrous and pointless. So she divided them, and the kids would work through something, and then she would, while they're working through it, go to the parents and have them work through something similar, but keeping them like a little bit separated so that the kids can have their dynamic together and then the parents have theirs. So it's more of facilitating group discussions than it was group coaching. That said, with student coaching, I have done a student workshop before where I think they were at max 16. So it was like really between 14 and 16. And they got it. Like they so got it. It was amazing. And so in that case, then the follow-up, we have a follow-up feedback form basically where it gives their level of, how much do you think coaching could affect your life on a scale of 1 to 100. It has contact information. It has, would you be interested in a free goal setting consultation? Would you be interested in hosting a workshop? And I had the kids put their parents' information, and also their buy-in was accountability with one of the other kids there for doing follow-up work. So that was, the goal was to kind of keep the momentum going enough that the parents could see, oh, wow, like the kids found something there. And then I follow up directly with the parents and say, hey, I led your student workshop. This is what they took away. And I think just being really specific about the students who were there, like Johnny, I really saw Johnny open up about his practice time and, like make it more specific since the parents weren't there, or, maybe be in a more disconnected environment, just so that you can verify that they had some moments of insight themselves, and then help the parent, like connect that to the parent.
Allison?
I was just wondering if you partner with schools in any way to do or reach out for the children's sessions or the young people sessions.
Yeah. So I'm in talks with 2 schools actually for that. Again, it's interesting and it's just different when it's a larger dynamic. I really like to keep them smaller-ish. So I haven't decided if that means that we'll just cap at a certain number. But yes, schools are in general pretty open to this.
All right, I have a question. Let's say you know somebody, we'll call him Jeff,
okay,
who's going to do a workshop the next week and maybe is struggling with a topic. How would he choose a topic that he could be passionate about and be effective at the same time for his first workshop? I got you, Jeff.
Thanks, man.
So
I was going to use vision and action, but we'll see what Christina
Ooh.
comes up with. It might be better.
nice. Again, I think it would really be subjective to who's coming and what are the what are connection points that I feel passionate about that they also would be affected by. So I'm afraid that's not a very specific answer, but I would probably correlate like, okay, they're interested in these things or they would want these outcomes and I can speak to these things. How do they correlate and intersect? Yeah, that's kind of how I would go about trying to decide. I'm sorry, that seems very, very vague.
It is, but it isn't. But you make a good point, though. It's one of those things where you're passionate about, because that comes across to people and they can see that. So it's easy for them to understand that you're passionate. And when you're passionate, you're not going to have lulls in your speaking. I mean, perfect example tonight, Christine, you were talking about workshops and you just, said a lot of stuff and really quickly and fast and, it was great stuff. But we all knew that you were passionate about it because it came across that way. I think it was very helpful with your audience. So,
yeah.
And before I forget, Christina, before we're done, can you put contact information in the chat box? So,
sure.
Like LinkedIn, so forth. If anyone's got questions afterwards.
Absolutely.
I always forget the last minute. I don't have time to look at it. So,
no worries.
Can I ask a question?
Yep. Go ahead.
I'm curious. Thanks. I'm curious. Do you always do your workshops? Do you not charge for them because you're really the goal? Part of the goal is to recruit clients, or do you?
Great question. So, I'm in discussion with my business. I have a few business partners. I'm in discussion with my business partners about that very topic. I think in general, we are keeping our workshops free because ultimately, who's the one who is going to benefit the least or not benefit the most by people not coming? It's me. And so that first connection, I think, is really important to give value and just be lavishly, abundantly generous with it. We're in discussions if our follow-up is going to be charged. So we have a workshop we've designed that really works well with almost any of them as a follow-up workshop. And so that one we may end up charging for, but at the moment, I know so many businesses that have been built because they offered value. And that's, the more value that you give to someone, the more they want to reciprocate. And the more you can offer the value, you have rapport with them and they trust you. And so because we are a high priced service, I think that that's extremely important. If you're not looking to get clients from it, and if you are looking for just, let's spread the word about coaching and let's have some really awesome impact, then you could charge, but that would be the trade-off.
And as we all know, our Fearless Leader, John, built his business on workshops.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he did in the beginning. So it's obviously it works. So if you do it right, it's going to work. So
yeah, and that's really the key, doing it right. You'll find the way that makes most sense for you the more you do it. And sometimes you really have to be just methodical and have a little bit of a what is that called? It's not a chip on your shoulder, but have some armor on you when it comes to the personal feelings about how it went or not, because there's some workshops I'm like, that was definitely not my favorite. That did not go down the way I wanted to. But then that's input for my next one, and the next one could be awesome, So it's very much a learning curve and learning process. But the more you do it, really, the easier it becomes, and the more you feel like, yes, I'm so good at this. I told my business partner, I feel like this is one of my strengths, where it's a culmination of everything that I do really well. And so, but I didn't start feeling that way. It was as I learned and as I went that I was able to see the alignment of those things.
Christina, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's I'm sorry.
No worries. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I'm sure I'm not the only one who's absolutely blown away that the first one of these that she did was, what, 5 or 6 months ago or something. So,
Yeah.
Here you are, leading an awesome class on it. But I'm curious as to how much they've changed over that time, right? Obviously, when you look back to those first 1, 2, 3, or 10 even, versus the ones that you're doing now, are they similar at all, or have they completely changed?
Yeah, it's funny. That's a great question. What's funny about this is that I think what has changed is not the exercises, it's the approach, how you lead them through the exercises, and then maybe even the order of the exercises. So, for example, values we used to do at the end of a workshop. Now, oftentimes we do that as the first, which may seem counterintuitive, but we use the values as inputs to the rest of the exercises, which just heightens what they actually take away from it. The other difference is, as I mentioned, the emotional connection, what you want them to walk away with emotionally. What you want them to walk away feeling. I didn't start my workshops off that way. In fact, I did my first, not my very first one, but the next 2 with a doctor. So we talk about stress, how it affects the body. And then I come in with how you can actually manage that, why it's important, the physiological effects. And that seemed much more clinical. And so as soon as I went to what do I want them to feel, that I added an exercise, and the next workshop was just like on a completely different level of experience for the attendees than the other ones were. In fact, my business partner was at the first wellness one that I did, and then the one that created that shift, and she's like, I cannot believe what just happened. Like, that was really amazing. So it has morphed and evolved. I think that I've probably been smarter about which questions I have them answer on paper, and then which ones I have them share in a group. And that's really important, because sometimes you'll have that one person who just wants to talk. And so I've become more intuitive at, all right, this is the amount of time we have. This question we'll ask because that's more important than this question, but they can still answer that on their own to get to this other question.
Really helpful. Thank you.
Beautiful. And sadly, our time has come to an end. But Christina, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. It's always good. I think workshops is when we all taken John's classes, he's talks about workshops all the time. I think it gets lost, because he talks about it in the beginning, and it gets lost in the whole 18 months. But I was in class for 18 months, but the whole sessions, and I think it's the root of life coaching, I think, is what it is. So very helpful, and I appreciate it. So her contact information is there. I'm sure will be glad to give you insights.
Feel free to reach out.
Trade secrets maybe you can't have because she's so important. It's been great. So and appreciate it. This is one of our biggest classes we've had. I know it doesn't seem like it's big, but my screen's full, which is great. So I enjoy people coming on here just to come on here. It's fun. Yeah. You learn one thing in that hour that could change your life. So feel free to keep coming back, invite your friends, and we'll get this so much. So and all those Seattle people, whoop whoop. And Hannah, thanks for letting those who skip classes come and hang out with you to get credit for it. So cool.
It was nice meeting you all.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Next week we're on Tuesday, so it's Tuesday at noon or 11 our time. Tuesday at 11 our time. So watch the Facebook group. So it's not next Wednesday, it's next Tuesday. So just FYI. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see everybody soon.
See ya.